All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Monday Motivation. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. And today we continue the conversations we've been having about identity and how identity drives action. Some of you are struggling out there. And today I'm going to tell you exactly why you're struggling. And today's episode is dedicated to my client, Christine. Christine, I told you that this was going to be the topic of my conversation today based on our conversation last week. So this is for you. This is what we talked about. And this is a reminder of what we talked about and a reminder for the rest of you of what Christine and I talked about last week. The same thing I talked about with several other clients, right? And you're struggling, and some of you are struggling. You go through a period where you do well, right? And you're on it. And then motivation fades and you go through a period where everything just seems to be off. You're off your plan, you're not consistent with your workouts, and you're just sitting where you are. Because like I said, I always ask you, where are you with your consistency with your meals, right? And if you're at a 4 or a 5, do you see how out of 10? That doesn't lead to results, right? Anything less than an 8 out of 10 isn't taking you forward. Anything less than an 8 out of 10 in your meal consistency is keeping you where you are because you're not ready for results. Right? You're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And it's the same with all your habits, guys. I want you to really understand that. Because it takes consistency, and anything less than an 8 out of 10 is not consistent enough to get you results. So you can start by asking yourself, where am I? That's the first question I ask all my clients. Where are you? The first question I ask my clients when we do a one-on-one call. Where are you? First question I ask my clients when we talk about nutrition in my group calls. Where are you? And your consistency on a scale of 1 to 10. If you're anything less than an 8, then you focus on, well, what does it take to go from a 4 to a 5? What would it take to go from a 5 to a 6? And here's why you're struggling. You're struggling because you do great when you're motivated, but I don't understand that motivation doesn't last. Motivation fades. Motivation is fickle. It comes and it goes. And when you're motivated, you feel like, yes, you're on and I can do this. I'm on this program. There's the problem right there. You're on a program. And just like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, you're not on a program. You are the program. And you're struggling because you haven't made that shift yet. That is why you're struggling. You're struggling because you haven't made the shift from being on a program to you being the program. That is why you're struggling. You're struggling because you are results oriented. You're struggling because, you're doing some stuff to get something, right? You're outcome focused. You're looking to the outcome. And your habits are based on outcome. And when your habits are based on outcome, that doesn't lead you forward, because when you're motivated to practice those habits, you're great. But guess what? You're not always going to be motivated. When times are good, you're great. But when times are bad, when life gets in the way and knock you down on your butt and things just start piling up and you're dealing with that messy middle, you don't know where to turn. You're not moving forward because you're not grounded in identity. You don't know who you are. You don't have any reasons to practice those habits, because the habits that you're working to practice, the habits that are going to take you forward, are the habits of your future self. And if you don't know who that future self is, do you see that you don't know what those habits are? And you have no reason to be practicing those habits because you're not grounded in identity. You don't know, who is this person I'm becoming? What is that future vision you're after? You don't have that yet. So that's where you start. You start with that future vision, because, guys, if you want results, you got to stop chasing results. You got to start focusing on who you're becoming. Why? Because you don't get what you want, you get who you become. You don't get what you want, you get who you become. The results you're looking for don't belong to you, they belong to the better version of you. The results you're looking for belongs to your future self. That is the better version of you. That is the version of you that has evolved. You got to evolve. You got to go from that caterpillar mindset to the butterfly mindset. That is where you get the results. Right? So, if you have no reason to choose the habits of your future self daily, because you don't know who that future self is. You see how you struggle, you vacillate back and forth. You get some results, you give it back. You get some results, you give it back. Sometimes you're on and things are great. And then you go through a period where you're just off because life gets in the way and things aren't easy anymore. You're not motivated anymore. And when you're not motivated, you can't move forward. But you see, you got to get beyond that. You got to get beyond motivation, because motivation doesn't take you anywhere. No one accomplished great things just by being motivated to accomplish great things. You accomplish great things by being consistent with the little things, the things that matter. Because here's the formula most of you get wrong. Results don't create consistency. Consistency creates results. And what fuels consistency? Identity. Knowing who you are. When you know who you are, then you know the habits of that person. You know the habits of who you are. That's your identity. Those are the habits you practice. But if you don't know who you are, why would you be practicing those habits? Why would you be eating the right foods in the right amounts at the right time, eating balanced meals, keeping those starchy carbs earlier in the day, eating consistent meals over the course of the day? Why would you be working on your sleep and your water? And why would you be working on your activity? Why would you be doing all these things? These are the habits of your future self. These are not your habits. So you see, when you're not grounded in identity, you're fighting an uphill battle. Things aren't flowing for you. You're great when you're on, and when you're off, you're really off. To change that, you got to figure out who you are. What is that future vision? You got to start dreaming again. Who am I becoming? I want to lose 40 pounds. Well, great. Why? How is your life going to change? What's it going to give you that you don't have now? Do a little dreaming. Put a pen to the paper. Write things down. Who is that person who's 40 pounds, 50 pounds lighter? Who's that person that's more energetic? Who's that person who's healthy without meds? Who's that person who's healthy, fit, and strong? Who is that person? That is who you need to focus on. You need to create that person now. You need to have that future vision. So if you don't have a strong future vision, you need to go there. That is the first assignment. Go there. And then figure out why. Why is it important to you? Your why is what you fall back on when motivation fades, because motivation is fickle. Motivation will fade. That candle will go out. And when you're sitting there in the darkness, how are you going to move forward? You got to put one foot in front of the other, and you got to reach towards the light. Otherwise, you're sitting there in darkness. You got to put one foot in front of the other, and you got to reach towards the light. When there is no light, you keep moving forward, because it never stays night forever. Day will always come. That's what you got to focus on, guys. Too many of you are still relying on motivation to get you through. Motivation feels great when it's there, but it's fickle, it's emotional, and it disappears the second life gets hard. The second those big obstacles show up, the second you hit that wall, motivation is gone. That's why some weeks you're on fire and others you fall flat. Motivation doesn't hold you steady. Identity does. Knowing who you are. Think about it. If you say, I'm motivated to run a marathon, you'll train only when the weather is good, when you feel rested, when everything's convenient. But if you say, I am a runner, I am a runner. You see the definition there? I am a runner. A runner is someone who runs, doesn't depend on the weather, doesn't depend on your circumstances, doesn't depend on how busy you are at work, doesn't depend on what's going on with your family, doesn't depend on your schedule, doesn't depend on anything. I am a runner. A runner is someone who runs. That is what I do on a daily basis. That is what I'm going to do no matter what. I'm going to have some non-negotiables around my running, because that's who I am. That's what I do. Last week we talked about developing those non-negotiables that anchor your habits in identity. Right? I am a runner. You lace up in the rain, you lace up in the cold, you lace up when you're tired. Why? Because that's who you are, folks. You got to get back to who you are. You see the difference? Identity carries you where motivation won't. Identity drives action. So guys, identity leads to consistency, and consistency leads to results. This is how things happen. So here's how transformation really works. You start with who you are. Who is that person you're becoming? I am healthy, fit, and strong. You got to start with a powerful I am statement. I am 150 pounds, because you've lost 50 pounds. A year from now, you've lost 50 pounds. You've got to own that. I am healthy, fit, and strong. I am healthy without meds. I am energetic. I am alive. You start with some powerful I am, some identity statements. Then you figure out why. Why? Because, well, I want to lose 50 pounds because I want to feel energetic. I want to have more energy. I want to fit in my clothes. Well, why is that important to you? That is stage one. You got to take it down 4 levels. Why is that important to you? Then take it down 4 levels. That is how you come to your big why. That is how you come to the why that is deep, emotional, existential. You can't stop at the surface. That's your surface level why. You got to go deep beneath the surface to figure out the deep reasons that will keep you moving forward when the lights go out, when the storm hits, when motivation fades. You fall back on your why. But you start with identity and your why, then consistency, the daily habits that flow from that belief of who you are, that knowing of who you are. That is what leads you consistent, so that it doesn't matter how you feel. I don't always feel like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but guess what? Every 5 o'clock in the morning, I am up, I am out, I'm at the gym. It doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter if I went to bed early, if I went to bed late. I am up, I am out, I'm at the gym. Why? That's who I am. I am healthy, fit, and strong. I am a fit person. I work out. That's what fit people do. That is my ritual. It's a lifestyle, and that is how I start my day. If I don't do that, I don't have a powerful day. So I figure out, what do I do to make sure I have a powerful day? I have some non-negotiables. My workout is non-negotiable. It doesn't depend on anything that's going on in my life. It doesn't depend on how busy my day is. It doesn't depend on how many clients I have to talk to. It doesn't depend on where I have to chauffeur my kids to. It doesn't depend on anything at all in my life. It is non-negotiable. It's what I do. How I eat is non-negotiable. It doesn't matter where I am, who I'm with. It's non-negotiable. Those are the things that drive results. When you are consistent with those non-negotiable habits, the inevitable outcome are the results you seek. The results you seek are the inevitable outcome of repeated, consistent action. That is how you get to where you're going, folks. So say it with me. Your results are a mirror of your consistency, and your consistency is a mirror of your identity. Your results are a mirror of your consistency, and your consistency is a mirror of your identity. I want you to remember that. Building consistency through identity. So how do you lock in consistency? You anchor it in identity. And how do you anchor identity in your daily life? you come up with those non-negotiables, right? You learn to change your self-talk. Stop saying I'm trying. Start saying I am. Stop saying I want to lose weight. Start saying I am whatever the weight is when you've lost the weight. That is your identity. Create those non-negotiables, right? Daily habits that prove your identity. You hydrate, you move, you practice your meals, you do your sleep. Those are the non-negotiables. You got to have non-negotiables around the 4 quadrants of your daily experience. What you put in the body, how you move your body, the quality of your sleep, how you deal with the stressors. So food and water is what you put in your body, right? You use that future self filter. Ask yourself, what would my future self do? What would the best version of my future self do? What would my alter ego do? What would they choose right now? Then choose that. Do that. Plan ahead. This isn't about trying harder, folks. It's about being clear on who you are. That person you are becoming, that is who you are. That is how you need to live now. You need to prioritize the habits and the needs of your future self over the needs of your current self. You need to break that old identity loop. Here's why so many of you stay stuck. That old identity fuels those old habits, and you keep getting old results. Nothing. You're right where you are. That is what's happening to a lot of you. Because that old identity, that's the way you still see yourself. And that fuels those old habits that no longer serve you, and you end up staying right where you are. The results you've gotten, nothing. So if you want new results, you must evolve into your new identity. You must evolve, because the results you're looking for don't belong to you. They belong to the future, the better version of you. That's your future self. So you got to shift the way you see yourself, folks. It's not, I'm trying to lose weight. I am someone who eats with intention. I am someone who eats consciously. I am someone who chooses what I eat no matter what. I plan my meals no matter what. I eat the right foods in the right amounts at the right time, no matter what. It doesn't depend on anything. It must become non-negotiable. I'm not exercising to lose weight. I am an athlete in training. This is part of my physical practice. This is my physical practice. The things I do on a daily basis are this is my physical practice. It's not exercise. This is my strength building time. This is my flexibility building time. Right? This is my balance building time. This is how I show up powerful in the world. These are the things I do to show up powerful, to build that confidence, and to show up, to have a deeper, richer experience of my day. That's just what these things do. That's what exercise does for me. That's my physical practice. When I'm healthy, fit, and strong, I feel powerful. I feel good. And when you feel good, you have a different experience of your day. When you walk into a room, you walk differently. When you walk down the street, I got to tell you, you don't walk, you strut. You float. You feel like you're floating on air when you feel good. When you're feeling at your best, you're floating. You're strutting. You don't walk. Right? Why do you think so many people strut around the gym? Because they feel good. They look good. They feel good. And they know it. Why not you? You got to get it. Get your strutting on. Get your strut on. Right? So here's your challenge this week. This week, I want you to write down 3 I am statements that align with the results you want. 3 I am statements that align with the results you want. Example, I am consistent. I am disciplined. I am strong. I am healthy. I am fit. I show up when things are hard. I show up no matter what. Right? That is who I am. Then I want you to pick one negotiable action that proves each of each of those. Do it every day for the next 7 days. Until we talk again next Monday, do it every day, right? Pick one negotiable action that prove who you are. I am healthy. Okay, well, what is one action you're going to practice to be healthy? I am fit. Well, what is one action you're going to practice to be fit? I am strong. What is one action you're going to practice to be strong? What are you going to do? That is how you anchor it in your day for the next 7 days. Because this isn't about trying harder, guys. It's about proving your new identity day in and day out. It's about anchoring that identity in your actions. That is how you move forward. So I want you to say this with me. I don't chase results. I embody my identity. My identity creates consistency, and consistency guarantees my results. I don't chase results. I embody my identity. My identity creates consistency, and my consistency guarantees my results. I want you to really take that to heart, folks. My consistency guarantees my results. Right? When you anchor your identity, you build your consistency. Watch your results transform. That is how you start moving forward. That is how you move through those plateaus. That is how you get where you're going. That is how you evolve. Identity leads to consistency. Consistency guarantees your results. Identity leads to consistency. Consistency guarantees your results. I want you to say it. Identity leads to consistency. Consistency guarantees your results. Your results are inevitable, folks, when you come from identity. When you know who you are. Who's that person you're becoming? So work on those I am statements this week. I guarantee you start there. You get very clear with that. Your results are guaranteed. I hope this is helpful.